course with Brisbane, due to make landfall around 4 o'clock Friday morning. The time to prepare is almost over. Schools have been ordered to close, some airports too, with tens of thousands of homes facing potential flooding in a worst-case scenario. What's more, there is concern tonight the system may intensify into a powerful Category 3 storm. We have reporters stationed right across the southeast with up-to-the-minute information. Josh Bavis begins our special coverage.
The captions, please.
Beautiful one day. Cyclonic the next. Beachside car parks don't stand a chance for what's coming. For some vehicles, it's already too late. Southeast Queensland beaches are roaring as Cyclone ALFRED approaches millions of residents.
You will get through this if you stay connected, if you do the right things, and if you put in place those preparations now.
Boards broken, beaches washed away, and the cyclone is still at least a day away. Current predictions have it coming into Moreton Bay as a Category 2 system early Friday morning before slamming into Brisbane's Bayside suburbs.
The safest place for you is in your home, and that's the vast majority of Queenslanders.
Emergency alerts are being issued for residents across multiple council areas. Heavy rain and dangerous swells, and wind gusts as high as 155 kilometres an hour are possible. In Brisbane, tens of thousands of properties are at risk of flooding.
Prepare, take this seriously. This is a rare event. We'll provide whatever resources are required.
In Victoria Point, lifetime fisherman Dave Thompson's prepared. He knows how quickly the weather can turn.
I've always said if we get a cyclone sit out the front here on the top of the right big tide, there's every chance we could get a little bit bigger surge, and that's what we're preparing for.
Usually picturesque seaside restaurants are now sitting straight in Alfred's path.
We've never had a cyclone actually directly hit us before, so it's all fairly new. So we'll see what happens.
Garden walls are being converted into makeshift levees to keep ocean swells out.
The high tide mark's pretty high over there already, and if we get a metre on top of that, that's the concern. That's why we're trying to keep the water out of the property.
Stay calm, to listen to the advice, and just prepare as much as you can.
Near the Spit on the Gold Coast, teenagers learned the hard way about defying orders to stay out of the surf.
What are you getting arrested for? Apparently obstructing police.
Daily total rainfall could reach up to 400 millimetres. Southeast dams already hold plenty of water at Wivenhoe, Somerset, North Pine and Hinds Dam. But we're being assured they can hold almost double their capacity. No releases are planned for now, but that could change.
At the moment, if the rain falls in the Lockyer River catchments or the Bremer River catchments, it will fill up those areas and will push that down into the Brisbane River.
Staff will be working overtime to keep critical services like water, power and telecommunications online. But in a cyclone, there's no guarantees.
Straight to Josh Bavis now at Cleveland. Josh, take us through the very latest tracking tonight.
Well, Melissa, the prediction from the Bureau at the moment has a Category 2 cyclone just scraping north of me here where I am at Cleveland, scraping the islands as well, and then slamming into the Bayside suburbs on Friday morning. It's expected to then track over the Brisbane airport, across the northern suburbs before heading further out west. If it does hit at 4 a.m. when they're predicting, that's a problem because the high tide is at about 3:30 a.m. So therefore there would be inundation. Melissa, these advices will begin coming out from the Bureau every hour very soon. That means that people can stay up to date with the information. There will come a time tomorrow where people will have to shelter in place. Melissa?
Josh, thank you. Well, we'll go live to weather expert Gary Youngry now, who's at Surfers Paradise. Gaz, there is a possibility Alfred could strengthen further.
Oh, Melissa, and most definitely, because he's slowed down, the ETA is being moved back to about 4 a.m. Friday morning. And with him slowing down, that is certainly more favourable for him to intensify further. And just before impact, there is a chance it could become a Category 3 tropical cyclone. Look, mountains of white water already have been pounding our beaches. The tide running out at the moment. With high tide today at around midday, the waves were actually smashing up on the end of the beach. You can see the protected dunes. Well, the fence has been smashed. The water's been all the way up, flowing over the walkway and the cycleway. Now, that high tide today will be about half a metre lower than the one we're expecting in a Friday morning. Combine that with the storm surge, and we could see some of the Surfers Paradise Beach up onto the glitter strip. That is the concern, particularly with him strengthening further. So rainfall today as well. Well, there's been heavy showers at times, burst of showers. They'll increase overnight, and that expected rainfall showing well and truly on the radar. The heaviest falls starting tomorrow, Friday, Saturday, and even into Sunday. Some incredible totals heading our way. The wind's still hanging off at the moment, but we're expecting to really kick in overnight. More on your local forecast and temperatures, what we had today, coming up a little later. Melissa.
Talk to you then. Thanks, Gary. Well, much of the southeast is shutting down tonight. Schools are closed for the rest of the week, as are thousands of non-essential businesses. And as the winds pick up, it will become harder to get around, with public transport to pause and major roads to close.
An eerily quiet peak hour in the CBD. Many workers sent home early as the window to prepare narrows.
In the last 15 years now, I have never seen the city this quiet.
Non-essential businesses already shutting up. Window to prepare narrows.
In the last 15 years now, I have never seen the city this quiet.
Many non-essential businesses already shutting up shop and boarding up. Schools out for this week at least. State schools closed in Noosa, the Sunshine Coast, Moreton Bay, the Redlands, Brisbane, Logan, Ipswich, the Scenic Rim and parts of the Darling Downs. Many parents welcoming the decision.
I think I prefer my children at home where I can keep them safe and they feel comfortable as well, so I'm sure they're not going to be too worried about staying home for a couple of days.
I don't really mind. It's all about the safety of everybody involved and getting off the roads and all that sort of stuff.
Independent and Catholic schools expected to follow suit. Parents urged to check if unsure. An emergency declaration has been made for childcare services to help ease the strain on parents.
The service can continue to get childcare subsidy. The service can waive gap fees for families, and children will get unlimited allowable absences.
Most centres opting to close for safety reasons. Parents should check with their provider. Both Coles and Woolworths say their stores will remain open for as long as it's safe to do so. Normal trading hours apply. Stock is being replenished frequently. As the weather intensifies, getting around is going to get harder.
Queenslanders need to be prepared for major roads and bridges to be closed.
The Gateway Bridge will close once winds reach 90 kilometres an hour. Drivers strongly urged to avoid the Walter Taylor go-between and Story bridges too, while pedestrians should keep off the Kangaroo Point, Indooroopilly and Breakfast Creek Green bridges once the strongest winds set in.
I don't want to see one single person electrocuted. I don't want to see one single person impacted by flying debris. The best way we can make that happen is for everyone to stay at home for the next 2 days at the very least.
A red alert has been issued. All waterways between Double Island Point and Point Danger are now closed. All vessels must now be stationary in port or in berth until further notice. Elective surgeries have been cancelled for tomorrow and Friday at public hospitals, but emergency departments will remain open. Ebony Cavallaro, 9 News.
And the southeast continues to grind to a standstill tonight, with public transport the next to shut down. Straight to Ebony in Brisbane City. Ebony, when will those services stop?
Well, as you can see, Melissa, buses are still operating here in the CBD. They will continue to do so until the last service tonight. That is the same also for trains. They will continue to operate as normal until the last service tonight. TransLink does warn, though, if the weather does deteriorate, they may need to suspend services before that moment. Now, at this stage, it does look unlikely. However, I have noticed just in the last hour there have been some bus delays on the TransLink website. There have also been some issues on the Beenleigh line. We understand that that is due to a signalling fault and therefore is not weather related. But I guess the message there for people who are relying on public transport tonight is just make sure you're checking the very latest information before relying on that service.
Thanks, Ebony. Well, before Alfred reaches the mainland, it will collide with our islands, including North Stradbroke Island. Claire Todd-Hunter is at Point Lookout tonight. How are locals preparing there?
Well, Melissa, this island is going to be one of the first areas to feel the full impact of Cyclone Alfred as it makes its way into the Queensland coast. The latest modelling from the Bureau of Meteorology showing that the eye of the storm will pass through exactly where I'm standing as it makes its way through. We have been feeling the impacts already this afternoon, though. The winds increasingly intensifying minute by minute. We've been having some heavy rains as well, pelting down, coming in sideways, though that has seemed to have eased off at least a little bit for now. But as you can see behind me too, the South Gorge is looking more like a washing machine tonight. We did hear from the Premier, David Christopher, earlier today, saying 68 people had already been evacuated from Stradbroke Island. We spoke to a lot of the locals about how they are preparing to weather this storm. This isn't Lance Magnuson's first time riding out a cyclone on Stradbroke Island.
When I went through the first cyclone in 71.
And the threat of Category 2 Alfred still isn't enough to sit this one out. So you haven't considered evacuating at all or heading back to the mainland?
Oh, no way. No, you can't leave a boat like this alone. You know, you've got to be here just in case something happens. How are you guys getting back?
His houseboat brought in from its mooring, anchored and secured to mangroves at 5 points at Dunwich.
So far it's working. We don't know what's going to happen, but I think it'll be quite safe here.
Over at Amity Point, Greg Litherland is doing all he can to protect his family home of 8 decades after years of coastal erosion left it exposed.
This is the first time that we've been threatened as much as what it is now. And you're working with nature, and you can't beat nature.
Down the road, much the same story at Alan Chaplin's place.
A lot of the local people just brought in their tree waste and bits of concrete and bits of blocks.
His solution, a protective wall of debris, hand-built at the edge of his property.
It has helped that the waves come up and hit it and just roll back down.
And you feel like it'll offer protection throughout this system that's coming?
Oh, I'm hoping I do. I'm not going to hold my breath, but I've got my fingers crossed.
His next-door neighbours packing up and heading for the mainland. Have you been door knocked at all here or told to evacuate?
No, a policeman a couple of police coming around yesterday. I got nowhere else to go.
Many more choosing to stay.
We really feel we're quite safe here. Yeah, so we've just put everything away that could possibly fly.
While at Point Lookout, even as conditions deteriorate, more excitement than fear from some.
Barrels will be coming in soon, so should be fun.
I think what these boys are really looking forward to is the grass hill over there when it starts raining. Get the boogie boards out.
Claire Todd-Hunter, 9 News.
When the cyclone hits, some parts of the southeast will face more damaging winds and a higher potential for storm surge than others. Tim Arvier joins us from the studio to explain.
You'll often hear that cyclones have a so-called dirty side, where the potential for damage is higher, and here in Queensland that's almost always on the southern side of the system. It's all to do with the cyclone's forward momentum combining with the direction of the winds. It means that those on the southern side can experience winds of up to 50% stronger than those on the north, where the winds are blowing in the opposite direction to the cyclone's forward track. The risk of storm surge is also greater on the south, and with the Gold Coast likely to be on that side of this system, the City Council there has issued flooding alerts for 6,000 properties. You can see pretty much all of the coast will feel the effects, all the way up through Logan. Authorities nominating Paradise Point, Hope Island, Jacobs Well, Southport, Labrador, Bigger Waters, Runaway Bay, Coomba, Norwell, Carrara, Surfers Paradise and Elanora as the most likely to be affected.
We've tried to prepare everyone so that they do understand that this looks like the most significant event in our city in terms of destructive winds and heavy rain that we've seen since 1954.
In Brisbane, modelling shows there are 20,000 homes at risk of flooding, with those by the beach, including at Nudgee Beach in Brighton, and also suburbs near the creek system such as Windsor, Ashgrove, Morningside, Rockley and Oxley, in particular, all told to be prepared.
For the very latest information tonight, let's go live to Emergency Services Headquarters at Kedron and Premier David Christopher. Premier, thank you for joining us. You are getting around-the-clock briefings. How bad is this going to be?
There's no doubt it's a serious threat, Melissa, but we have taken the precautions and we've put the preparations in place, and we're asking Queenslanders to do the same. And overwhelmingly, people have heeded the message. If you don't think you quite have at the moment, you still have time, and it's the little things that you can do. Avail yourself of the information, find out if you are in one of those disaster zones, either from storm tide or from a flooding event. But if you aren't, and the majority of Queenslanders in that case, just make sure you do the little things around your home which can improve it. So clean up the debris, make sure that you don't have leaves hanging over your property, make sure that you've got all your possessions in one box. It's those little things that make such a world of difference.
If you have one message to Queenslanders tonight, what is it?
That this is a real threat, but you will get through it. And I've seen the resilience of Queenslanders at both ends of the state and the way that we deal with natural disasters. We are the best in the globe at it. And I want Queenslanders to know that we have pre-positioned the things that will make the recovery so much easier. There won't be any daylight between the response and the recovery. But the greatest thing you can do now is do the little things, stay safe during the event, and I've got every faith we'll get through this.
Premier, thank you so much for your time tonight. Let's go live now to the Brisbane airport where McKenna Bailey joins us. McKenna, have operations been impacted there?
Well, Melissa, as you can see behind me, it's business as usual here at Brisbane Airport. Cancellations are, however, rolling in as Cyclone ALFRED makes his presence known. The decision to cancel flights will strictly be made by Air Services Australia and individual airlines. At the moment, Qantas and Jetstar flights to and from Brisbane and the Sunshine Coast will continue as planned, while flights to Ballina and Coffs Harbour have been suspended, and Virgin will be operating on a limited schedule here from Brisbane until 6 p.m. tomorrow night. Now, the Gold Coast Airport made the decision this afternoon to close its doors from 4 o'clock as a matter of safety. It's unknown when the airport will reopen, but the advice to passengers who are affected is to directly contact your airline. Melissa, as the situation continues to unfold, we can expect further cancellations and delays over the coming days.
I'm sure we'll see that, McKenna. Thank you. Well, beaches on the Gold Coast, they're already facing the wrath of Tropical Cyclone ALFRED. Monster swell eating away at the sand, causing major erosion along the coastline, as Luke Bradnam reports.
Melissa, it's high tide down here at Currumbin, and you can see areas around southeast Queensland and low-lying areas already starting to flood. But I want to explain the significance of the storm surge we're expecting in the early hours of Friday morning when ALFRED arrives. Today's high tide is 1.27 metres. Come Friday morning, 1.55 metres, 30 centimetres higher, but with a storm surge potentially as high as 1 metre. And that means the early hours of Friday morning, I could very well be standing in knee-deep water here in Currumbin, and low-lying areas down further on the beach could very well break their bank. Now, as for the surf, it is breathtakingly gigantic at the moment. If you look out here, the Tweed Wave Rider buoy a short time ago saw swell up around 9 metres. That's almost certainly about to increase. We could see swell up around 15 metres, which would mean waves as big as 6 metres pounding our beaches. That's major erosion, Melissa, the sort of erosion that may take our beaches years to recover from.
Luke, thank you. Well, still to come, our special cyclone coverage continues. We have the very latest advice, what you can do in the next 24 hours to keep your family safe. The wife of an accused killer takes... President Trump says a deal with Ukraine is imminent following that Oval Office blow-up. And the US Vice President's remark sparks outrage. What he said next.
Tonight on A Current Affair, Cyclone ALFRED, millions are in the firing line. We'll bring you their stories as some families evacuate and others stay to protect their homes.